part of your. Please put the first part of your email address in the chat for us, so that we can record your attendance here today. We'd appreciate that greatly. Okay, so as I said, I am Greg Schubert, and I'm happy to be with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about abstracts, what they are, and how to put them together. So let's get started. So could anyone here or online tell me what an abstract is? What's an abstract?
Like in terms of English, I guess, or just like, because I mean, you have the picture on there, and when I think of something visually abstract, I think like not concrete stuff, it's just kind of like a blob of whatever.
Okay. And
But then I think you said last week that like an abstract is kind of like an overview or a summary of what our thing is.
excellent, good, excellent. Anyone in the online have any suggestions? No, okay. So yes, that's exactly right. It's a summary of your research. And so, as an English instructor, one of the first things that I would say to anyone writing an abstract is to consider your audience. Think about who your audience is. Now, who is your audience here? The committee who's going to be reading your abstract and determining whether or not you should be a part of the competition. No, yes, or the symposium. That's one group. But when you are accepted, your abstract is published in the program of the symposium. And everybody who attends can read it. That could be staff, faculty, students from across campus, across disciplines. Could be folks from FAMU, FSU coming to visit and check out your research. It could also be family members of participants and just interested citizens of the city. So keep that in mind. It's a very broad audience that you'll have eventually. When you go to a conference and you're trying to determine which sessions you want to go to and what you want to see, you read the abstracts and you decide what piques your interest. So that's what you want to do. You want to pique your readers' interest. Now, an abstract usually contains certain things, certain elements. And the first element that you want to start your abstract with is that's the actual definition. You want to start with the purpose or overarching theme of the study, paper, or creative work, as well as the hypothesis or the thesis of the paper. Now, anyone who attends, we're going to send you this PowerPoint, so you will be able to have that. So I don't want you to feel there's a lot of text in this first slide. I just feel like I have to write about that. So what you want to do is first ask yourself or tell your readers why did I do this? What interested me enough to do this research? Tell me what the purpose is. Then, what did you expect to find? What do you expect to find? What do you hope to find? If you're doing a study, you'll have a hypothesis. But if you have, let's say, a paper for an English project, you perhaps might have a thesis as well. The hypothesis is the central focus, just like the thesis. The next thing that you want to add is the design of the study. So after you tell your reader the purpose and you state your hypothesis, then you want to tell me how you collected data. How did you collect your data? And how did you analyze that data? So you're going to describe these things. Now, if you happen to be working on a creative project like a visual art project or performing arts, and you're writing this abstract, here you're going to discuss how you went about creating the piece. But if you are doing a study, then you will talk about the design of that study. Are you surveying participants, let's say? And what are the demographics of that group? How then did you analyze the data once you got your surveys back? You're going to describe all of that to your reader so that your reader understands how you went about gathering your information. After that, you want to tell me what you found out. Give me your results. You're going to look at the findings, you're going to present the findings of the trends of yours that you discovered in your work. Why did you do it? What did you expect to find? How did you gather your data? And how did you analyze it? And what did you find out? You're going to present that to your readers at that point. And finally, most abstracts end with a sentence or two of concluding thoughts. You might look at the significance of your findings, what implications those findings have, how your findings added to the broader conversation in the field. These are things you might consider. So remember, this is all for this conference, for this symposium, 150 words. So you're not going to have a whole lot, maybe a sentence or two for each of these elements. Start off again. Why? What's the purpose of the study? Why'd you do it? What do you expect to find? What do you hope to find? How'd you gather your data? How'd you analyze it? What did you find out? And finally, what are your concluding thoughts? What implications of your findings have? That, in a nutshell, is an abstract.
Okay. All right, so hello again, everyone, in person and online. Again, my name is Erica Williams, biology faculty. So as a little midpoint concept check, if you will, which of the following would not be an essential element of an abstract? So I'll give you all a few moments, of course, in person, but definitely on Zoom to ponder this question and put your response in the chat if you are remote. So again, the question is, which of the following is not an essential element in abstract? Your choices are A, purpose, B, review of the literature, C, methodology, D, results. Again, those options are, especially for our Zoom folks, A, purpose, B, review of the literature, so whatever works or sources you have read, articles, etc. C, methodology, D, results. So what would you say is not an essential element of your abstract?
I would say B, review of literature.
Okay,
And in the chat, we have a B as well.
B as well, all right, and y'all are absolutely correct. So as Mr. Greg mentioned, you want to keep your abstract pretty concise. So in English terms, you know, that abstract is going to be an overview or a synopsis of your works in whatever capacity or way that you express that, okay? So with your abstract, you don't want to really list out all of these citations of the works or the literature that you have read. You really just want to stick to, again, that purpose, methodology, and your results. Okay, so remember with your purpose, you really want to, you know, state very plainly what your intentions are, briefly mentioning your hypothesis, dive a little bit heavier into the methods or what you did to prove your hypothesis or your interpretations to be correct. And if by any chance your hypothesis was incorrect, you know what we have to do following scientific method. You have to go back, revise that hypothesis, but also just detail what your findings were, even as you're doing your methods. And lastly, you want to quickly detail your results and have that conclusion, all within 150 words. So Ms. Shakita is gonna talk to y'all about what a good abstract should include and what that would look like.
Okay, so a good abstract should elaborate upon each aspect of the study or paper. So definitely, as Greg says, make sure that you have your focus in your abstract. That's the most important point that you want to place in your abstract. You want to elaborate on what aspect or what subject you actually, or topic that you talked about in your study or your paper. You also want to help the readers decide whether they want to learn more about your investigation or creation. So remember, that's the hypothesis that you're looking for, and you want your audience to be interested in that topic as well. So be sure you want to add that information, that detail in there, what further findings that you're planning on investigating. And include enough information to make the abstract useful to someone in the field who may want to examine your work. So have others want to inspect your work and want to find out further information about it as well. And finally, ask yourself, if my abstract were the only part of my work I could access, would I be happy with the amount of information presented there? Remember, again, you only have 150 words to put in there. However, you want to put as much specific information as possible so that your audience will know that your topic or know your subject or know what it is you are investigating or studying. A good abstract should also use active voice when possible. So instead of saying the project was surveyed by, you don't want to use active voice and say, I surveyed so many participants, or surveyed this many participants, this many girls, boys, so forth. Because you want to make the active voice, you want to make it seem that you are doing the project because it is your project. So you want your voice to come out that way as well. You also want to use concise and complete sentences. Remember, this is a professional abstract, so we want to use correct grammar. So be sure you proofread. If you need assistance with that, you can always get someone from Learning Commons to assist you, or you can go and talk to your faculty sponsor and make sure they look it over, but definitely proofread and make sure you're using concise sentences, complete sentences, and get to the point quickly. Again, you only have 150 words to get the details out there, so make sure you have that study, the focus, make sure you have your methodology, and make sure you have your results. You may sometimes have a summary or findings at the end. However, some abstracts do not have that, that's fine, but you do want to make sure you have those 3 key elements in your abstract. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about what a good abstract should not do.
So I think y'all from Zoom land and also here, we can kind of see what your abstract should not be. And that would be convoluted, kind of all over the place and just divulging too much information too soon. So you do want to think of your abstract almost like an appetizer, okay? So you want to give your audience a little taste of what your research involved, so you can lure them into your poster session or whatever other platform you use to present your work, okay? That could be that 3-minute video, etc. So you don't want to provide that lengthy background information. So be as concise as possible. Also, you should not provide references to other literature, okay? So remember 150 words, talk a little bit about your methods, but when you're bringing in other works, you should really try to stay away from that. So again, you should stay away from providing references to other literature. So instead, say something like current research shows that, or studies have indicated, okay? Are there any questions in the chat about this so far, or do you have any questions, ma'am?
Kind of related, so I know that people read the abstract and that's how they get interested in seeing your project, so where are they getting the abstract from? Is it gonna be like in front of our board, or?
And touch on that.
From, you mean the people who visit the symposium?
Yes, like the random people. like-
Sure. There's a program that used to be printed, but now it's online, and when they come in, they can scan a QR code with their phones and bring up the entire book. And they can look through and see which poster sessions they'd like to go, and your name, the title of your research and project, and your abstract will be there for them to see. So that's how they might determine where they'd like to head next.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a Q&A session. I didn't want to jump the gun there, but did we have any questions in Zoom right now?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Now, as Ms. Allen mentioned, you do want to stay clear of grammatical errors. So in this day and age of spell check everything, AI, chat GPT, you could always, just make sure that your grammar, spelling, and sentence structure is up to par. Because as previously mentioned, everyone will be able to review that abstract and see if they're gonna pay you a visit during that symposium. We want to stay clear also of excess wording, so additional jargon or terms that may be confusing to the reader, all right? Now, of course, going on, certain terminology in your actual study or the method section. If you're doing a journal, but for the abstract, you just want to stay clear of the excess jargon. All right, and also you want to avoid using images as well. So this is just straight text, 150 words.
I have a
Okay.
quick question. Hi, my name's Amari, by the way, but I do have one really. Can y'all hear me well? Okay. For my project, I want to do a performance piece, specifically a dance performance piece. And in the abstract, I remember you mentioning it should be like a little appetizer, but if it's like, I'm just curious to know how a performance, like a dance performance abstract would look compared to a regular poster abstract, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So for a performance or any other creative works, you could really touch on what inspired your piece. So you could be pulling in some historical context with that. If I don't know what the performance would look like, but if you were inspired by other works, or whether it's through video or through live performances, you would briefly mention that. Okay, so what inspired you? Would anyone else like to elaborate on that?
And in terms of the methodology, if you're trying to decide how you did the piece, you can add in your abstract the type of music that you used and what tones that it represented and so forth, and why you chose
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yes.
And in the results, you kind of want to go for what you believe the audience will get from the piece. What
Oh,
they'll
okay. Definitely. Okay, that's okay. I understand. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good questions.
Yes.
I've got a question for you now. We've been talking about what's good and what's bad in an abstract, what you want to avoid, what you want to embrace. So answer me this, a good abstract should do what? A, provide references to other literature. B, include enough key information to make the abstract useful to someone who may want to examine your work. C, include images, illustrations, and tables. And D, allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect of the paper. Select all options that apply. Give you a few minutes. Pretty sure? Yeah. How about online? Everybody.
How many people are online?
I had to put your answers in the chat.
Yeah, put your answer in the chat, what you think it is.
Take a guess.
Could you repeat the answer choices one more time? I'm driving.
That's no problem. A is provide references to other literature. So we're looking for what a good abstract should do. Provide references to other literature, A. B, include enough key information to make the abstract useful to someone who may want to examine your work. C, include images, illustrations, and tables. D, allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect of the paper.
Good.
So
Okay.
what say you?
Definitely B, and I'm
Good.
gonna go ahead and say D as well.
Good.
B and D. You're correct.
Yes, and in the chat, we have B as well.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so,
wasn't sure about D just because I know we have to keep it concise, so I didn't know if like by elaborate, you meant like a whole bunch of elaboration or.
right, well, it's kind of a tricky answer there. Well, what you want to do is,
Like enough to hook them.
is give your reader a taste, a little appetizer, like I said. But then when you get to your poster session or your oral presentation, that's when you're gonna elaborate. You don't want to give all that information away, all the good stuff away in the abstract. You want to save some for the main course. That makes sense. And you do want to, of course, but you do want to include enough information to make it useful to someone who may want to examine your work. You might have someone in your field who is looking to do a study or is doing a meta-analysis or something and looking for studies that will work. You have enough information in that abstract that will help the researcher as well. Good job. Okay, so now we are gonna take a look at some sample abstracts.
All right, so right here, what we're looking at is a STEM abstract example. So highlighted, you have those major points that you really want to stick to. So in white, we're looking at the purpose of the study. And in yellow, we're looking at the methodology. So what, very concisely, straight to the point, what did you do to really enrich your work? And lastly, you have that conclusion that would briefly mention your results and maybe potentially what future studies might include, okay? So as you can see, 150 words, very concise, very clean.
That is not a lot.
It is
Yes.
not. Any questions about I would say the format or, yeah, the layout for this particular example?
And remember, this is a STEM abstract. The next one is going to be an art abstract or literature.
And it's helpful, I'll go ahead and read this so you can hear those three major points that are definitely adhered to. So it says, the field of STEM is a place where creativity and prosperity come to meet. This study investigates diversity in STEM in association with race and disability. This is important because STEM impacts the life of everyone and, and it is beneficial to have people from different backgrounds to collaborate with in building new projects within sciences and mathematics. This project, getting into the methodology, this project surveyed people of color and those with disabilities, asking if they felt welcomed and accepted in the STEM field. The survey consisted of 3 questions, and the goal was to at least get 50 people to participate in the survey. Each question was multiple choice, and we encouraged the participants to elaborate on their answers. Getting into the conclusion and results conclusion. Our anticipated results are the participants giving nuanced answers to the questions and explaining how the STEM field could be more inclusive. So even with reading that, I'm using active voice and getting straight to the point. So it's very concise.
And this is a good example too of a study that wasn't yet finished when the students submitted the abstract. So if you're not quite done with your study, when you submit your abstract, you can give your anticipated results. That might not be what you find, but this is what you're anticipating, and that will be acceptable to the committee. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now we get to a visual arts abstract example. This is again, exactly 150 words to the word. And again, color coded, purpose in white, methodology in yellow. In purple, we have the result. And in blue, we have the concluding thought here. So the purpose of this sculpture is to embody the fragility of the Florida ecosystem while raising awareness of the state's environment. So, right there, boom, your reader knows exactly what's going on. I collected objects from nature, such as leaves, blossoms, and twigs, and dried them. I assembled these items into the shape of a manatee and used twine to hold them together. I then coated the sculpture with epoxy that I tinted with blue and green dye to mimic the color of water. I left certain areas of the sculpture unfinished to provide texture to the sculpture's surface. So the methodology was how the individual went about creating the sculpture, what materials were used, and what was done. Now we come to the results. These are what the artist hopes the viewer will see. So the viewer will see the natural elements encased in a semi-transparent coating, which will bring awareness of Florida's environment. At the same time, the contrast between the smooth epoxy finish and the rough, unfinished patches will remind the viewer of the fragility of Florida's ecosystems. And then the concluding thought, kind of this sculpture contributes to the body of eco-friendly art with a mission of raising environmental awareness. So it shows how it contributes to the greater conversation in this field. Also, notice how you're not going to know how every viewer is going to see your work. Somebody might come up and go, "That's a manatee?" You don't know. But this is what the artist hopes for. And this is what you can put in your abstract is not what the viewer will actually, how the viewer will actually interpret what you're doing, but how you hope they'll interpret what you're doing. Great.
So now,
Yeah, now we're gonna take a look at.
now we're gonna take a look at one that we're gonna want you all to try to decipher on whether this is a good abstract. And give you a moment to read this. And what I want you to look for is those three important elements, sometimes four. We want the focus, correct? We also want the methodology. And we want the results. Sometimes we have concluding thoughts. But we also want to pay attention to the other things that an abstract, a good abstract should have. Does it have that concise, active voice? Is it punctuated correctly? Are there any grammar errors? So we want to make sure that our abstract is good to go with the conciseness of 150 words and the elements that we need. In your online, if you want to unmute yourself and say what you see, might be some flaws with this abstract, please let us know, or you can put it in the chat. And then also here in person.
You want me to just like say stuff? or-
Yes.
I mean, already looking at it, they have like quotes and stuff.
Good. What was that, one of the things that we talked about in the workshop? What did it not need to have?
Too
Literature.
much, like, yeah,
Very
too much
good,
unnecessary information.
Yeah.
very good. We do not want literature from other studies. And how many do we have in here?
At the end of their abstract, it's a lot of
Good,
quote
Good.
in and cite in, so yeah.
good. We want to leave that out of our abstract. We also want our elements. We need our focus, we need our methodology, and we need our results. Do we have all three elements?
I haven't actually read it yet.
Okay.
Very long person. I mean, they kind of like put their results in the very first sentence, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I don't think they have really any methodology.
Good.
That I can see. I'm not even sure if they really, well, they say what they're investigating, but I'm not really sure if they say what they want you to gain out of it. Well, I guess the last sentence, they kind of say the importance of cultivating. I don't know, they just like organized it weird, like they did the results first and then they put the purpose at the end, like weirdly formatted.
You are correct. They are missing the methodology as well. They say a mixed methods approach. To the average reader, they're gonna say,
What does
I
that
don't
mean?
know what that means. And then we don't know whether they're talking about the students or are we talking about your focus?
As far as like word count, I have no idea. I mean,
This is actually 150 words exactly.
oh, wow, okay.
Yes. What else do we see wrong with it? You did mention it about that sentence.
The last one?
No, you said there was a long
Oh,
sentence.
yeah, definitely run on sentence at the beginning.
Good. It has grammatical errors. Remember, we don't want grammatical errors in our abstract. There's several grammatical errors in here. One of them is run on, but those are also subject verb agreement errors where it says the findings indicate that the student will consistently instead of students, because they were referring to more than one student, but we have student instead.
Oh, yeah.
We have comma splices.
And the comma splice is that first sentence.
Yes.
First sentence has a comma splice. If I see that, probably not going to your presentation.
Exactly.
I've probably lost faith in your study here.
So we want you to remember, this is your professional look into your study and your topic, and we want it to be as professional as possible. So be sure to proofread, and make sure that you have all elements. You must have your focus, You must have your methodology and your results. Good, any questions online also about the study or the abstract?
Questions about anything at all?
Is this the camera? Or
Yes,
the-
it is.
That's like, I didn't know it was just a speaker.
Good, so now what we're gonna do now is we're gonna show you how to submit your abstract online. We're gonna show you a little video on how that is done. And Greg, if you could click
Oh,
that
yeah.
link for me.
Congratulations on taking the first step in participating in the Tallahassee State College Undergraduate Research Symposium. We welcome students to submit all kinds of academic and creative work for inclusion in our annual Undergraduate Research Symposium, including research papers, laboratory experiments, creative performances, visual artwork, films, independent study projects, and more. After finding a TSC faculty sponsor and selecting your presentation style, it is time to prepare and submit your abstract. Your abstract is a short description of 150 words of what you did and learned from your research. It should be interesting, informative, and written for a broad audience. Don't assume the reader knows why your work is significant. Follow along with this guide to create your Oxford Abstracts account so that you can submit your abstract. If you are new to Oxford Abstracts, you will be required to create an account. Select the Create an Account link, then continue with email. Please use your TSC student email address to create your account. After your account is created, head back to the login page and sign in. You are now ready to fill out the abstract submission form. You are required to fill in all fields marked with an asterisk, including presenter name, TSC faculty sponsor information, title, abstract, academic discipline, presentation type, and more. Attend an upcoming Writing an Abstract workshop to learn tips and tricks for enhancing your writing before submission. We look forward to reading your abstract soon.
No way YouTube blocks out the end.
Oh, no.
With their previews of videos to come.
Yes.
All right, does anybody have any questions at all about anything we've discussed?
Like I've asked all my questions throughout the.
Awesome.
How about online? Anybody online have any questions lingering?
I got mainly what I needed with my question. I just need to what I need to do now is get a faculty advisor. That's it.
Good. Yes.
Wonderful. This is one of the references that we used in order to gather some of the information in the presentation. Like I said, we'll send this to anyone who attended so that you can follow the link if you'd like to read it more.
And if you're online, please put in your name and your TSC email so you can get the information from today.
Yeah.
And put it in the chat for me before you leave.
And of course, Shakita and I both work here at the Learning Commons. If you write a draft and you want to come in and get our advice, you're more than welcome. We'd love to see you, or you can email us and make an appointment. Maybe you can't get on campus. We'll go ahead and make an appointment with you so we can work with you online via Zoom. So keep that in mind.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. This is our last workshop for the semester. But in the spring, the workshops will start coming out fast and furiously. So stay tuned. It was a pleasure talking to you all today.
Thank